Hello, friends. Welcome. Today, I'm going to share my thoughts on the foreign travel and settlement abroad in KP Astrology. What are the combinations and what are the rules in KP Astrology related to foreign travel and also related to someone who settles, abroad in a foreign country. But before we discuss, those rules, I would like to share, one anecdote about my meeting with K.N. Rao. K.N. Rao is a very famous, astrologer in India. I don't know him personally, and this meeting just happened, by chance, and that too about like 15 or 20 years ago. And at that time, I was developing some astrology softwares, and I happened to be in Delhi. So I thought that I would meet Mr. K.N. Rao and present and give him a copy of my software. So that was just a courtesy, visit to his flat in Delhi, and there were just a few, persons at that time in his flat, and we were having a very casual, conversation when somebody uh, showed, his horoscope to Mr. Rao, asking about, whether he would be able to go to a foreign country or not. And I remember, that moment when Mr. Rao, looked at his horoscope. This was a simple, plain horoscope, and I vaguely recall, but I'm pretty sure it has no planetary degrees or nothing. And but K.N. Rao, looked at his horoscope, and in a moment of great, inspiration, and he predicted to that fellow that he would surely be visiting, a foreign country in next 30 days span of time, and that nothing is going to stop that. So that was a very, firm and bold, prediction from K.N. Rao at that time, and so there was a pin drop, silence because he was very inspired while giving, this prediction, and I'm not sure, whether he used the horary, method, or whether he looked at the horoscope. I don't know. We never discussed this. But after this prediction, about that fellow visiting, a foreign country within a span of 30 days, there was a follow-up question from that guy. And he asked Mr. Rao if he is going to settle in a foreign, country. So at that time, um, K.N. Rao was little, amused by that question, and he again, looked at a horoscope, uh, and then he said that he used a particular, Hindi phrase which I'm going to quote. He said to that fellow that आप आते जाते रहेंगे. What that means? आप आते जाते रहेंगे. That means you'll be going back and forth. You will go to a foreign country, come back, and then visit again. So that is what, he told to that fellow. And eventually, of course, I found out what happened, and that guy did, go to some country in Europe, and but eventually he settled down, in that country. For a couple of years, he was coming back to India, and but after a few years, maybe 2 years, 3 years, then he settled down in that European country with his family for good, and he never, came back to India. So this story, or this anecdote always, remained with me about uh, how to, analyze or find out about the foreign journey, and then the challenging question about whether a person is going to settle down, in a foreign country or not. Now, this seems a very simple question that will I be, going abroad, or and then will I be settling down in a foreign country or not? But when, as an astrologer, when you get these kind of questions, and when you start working on that, you will immediately get stuck up with some of the basic stumbling block, or some of the basic hindrances. The first is, of course, how do you define foreign? How do you define what is a foreign country? So I pulled out this map from Google Images, and I was trying to get one for Akhand Bharat, or the undivided India, and but I couldn't find a good image. So this is, let's assume that this is the map for an Akhand, or the undivided India, which was the India that was about, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 years ago, when the Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, they were all part of India, or the undivided India. Now, at that time, if a person, let's say some person is, you meet some person in, let's say, Bhopal, and he asks you this question, that he or she asks this question, that if a foreign settlement is possible, or a foreign journey is possible or not, and if that person goes and settle down in Afghanistan, or settle down in Nepal, or maybe in Burma or Bangladesh, and I'm talking about 400 years ago, I'm talking about in undivided India. So how do you explain that? Obviously you would say that you are going to have a long journey, or are you going to say that you are going to settle down in a foreign country? So this is one of the challenging question, that how do you define foreign? A person who is in living in Srinagar, in Kashmir, okay, and if he travels to Madurai, okay, and that's a very long travel, and so is, what do you say, is he, is it just a long journey, or is that person has moved to a new surrounding, a new atmosphere, new environment? Is that a foreign trip or what? Okay, and similarly, if you look at this map of Europe, you know, and the Europe is has very small countries, and so let's say if a person is somewhere in Austria. Okay, now if you look at Austria, it's all surrounded by all these countries: Germany, Switzerland, France, Italy, Hungary. Okay, so now if that person has to travel to Hungary, or Germany, or France, or Italy, and for some business purpose, or maybe for some official purpose, so what do you say? Do you say that he has an extensive foreign travel, or you say it's a short journey? And suppose if that person move from Australia and settle down in Germany. You see this Australia and Germany is just a border, and let's say he is in a village on the Austria border, and 100 miles from there is the Germany. So if you settle down in some German town, so what do you say? You say that this is a foreign settlement. So these are some of the questions, very challenging questions, that you have to face when this question comes up about the foreign journey, or the long journey is okay. You can look at long journey, but how, but defining that long journey as a foreign journey is the challenge. So from Srinagar to Madurai, it's a long journey, but whether this is a foreign journey or not, that is the question that you have to ask yourself. Similarly, if somebody is in Austria and goes to Germany, that's not a long journey, but the country has changed. So what is this, a foreign journey? So these are some of the challenging questions that you have to face when you are studying, or when you take up these questions about foreign travel. And similarly, when you talk about the settlement abroad, then again you have this daunting task of working out if you call that a foreign country or not. And these days you get a lot of these questions. So I thought that before you before I take up, one of the horoscope and explain, what Krishnamurti has to say uh, about foreign travel and settlement, let me, share some of my views about, what is a foreign country, what is a foreign travel, and what is a settlement abroad. And for this reason, I narrated that story about my meeting with Mr. Rao, where he said, "Aata jata rahega," means back and forth. People, they go to some foreign country, like they go to US and they are there for 20 years and then they come back. So, what do you say? Are they making a long journey from US back to India, or they are, uh, um, just returning to their, motherland? So it takes a lot of, hues and colors, and so that is what we are going to discuss in this horoscope, and I'll share my thoughts and views with you. So in Krishnamurti, the rule is if Kaspal sublord of the 12th Kasp is related to 3, 7, 9, or 12. 7 is kind of dubious, and in some books you will find 7 has been mentioned, and but most of the time 3, 9, 12 is there. So let's for the timing remove 7. So 3, 9, and 12. If it is related with 3, 9, and 12, it indicates a, a long travel. It doesn't indicate a foreign travel, but it indicates a long, travel, the 12th house. Similarly, you have to look at from the other cuspal sublords as well. If you are looking from the 12th cuspal sublord, it makes sense to look from the ninth house. So you will say if cuspal sublord of ninth cusp is related to 3, 9, and 12, then long journey is promised. If the cuspal sublord of third is related to 3, 9, and 12, then also a long journey is promised. So this is the rule. But and this is the cuspal sublord for the here, the cuspal sublord for the 12th, that is Jupiter. But in some of my videos, I pointed out that it is very risky, to use the cuspal sublord, and because if you create this horoscope, for these birth particulars, and if you change the time by 5 minutes or 10 minutes, then these cuspal sublord will change. So this is a very risky, proposition in Krishnamurti Paddhati. I would not recommend, but I have explained you the rules. So if you want to, this is a very accurate, birth time. I know this person, and I know that this birth time is very accurate, and so that's why I mentioned this cuspal sublord rule. And but like I mentioned, it's a risky proposition for using this the cuspal sublord changes very fast. So what do we do now? We look at all these planets, and we try to see that what kind of how many significators are there for 3, 9, and 12. So now if you look at this horoscope, you will find that there are plenty of significators for 3, 9, and 12. So have a look, and you will find that the 9, 12, and 3, 9, 12, there are quite many significators, and at one glance you can tell this person that he is this is a male horoscope, that he is going to go to a foreign country. Now oh sorry, he is going to have a very long journey. And now, how do you say that he is going to go to a foreign country? So I will tell you, this rule, that how do you, kind of distinguish between a long journey within the country, or the planets have nothing to do, with the country, because these are all man-made, lines on a map. And like once upon a time we had undivided India. Today, many parts of the India have become foreign to India itself. So the planets have nothing to do. Planets will only tell about a very long journey, and then there is some hint that Krishnamurti has given about how to use a particular influence of Rahu to your advantage, to interpret that as a as somebody going to a foreign country. And so 3, 9, and 12, we see a lot of 3, 9, 12 signification in this chart. So we can say, yeah, this person will be traveling a lot. Okay, so that's and that's because of 3, 9, and 12. So now this, what happened to this person was that he studied in IIT, and like it happens, the most of the IIT guys, they eventually end up going to US, and so this is eventually happened with this person also. And so he studied in IIT during his entire Martasha, I guess he was in IIT, and as soon as his Rahu Dasha started, okay, he was in US and he became a IT consultant. And even when he was in US, he was traveling extensively. He was a functional consultant, and he had very short term projects, 3 months, 4 months, that kind of project. So he was just flying from one city to another city, and he was bachelor at that time, and he was kind of living life out of suitcase, just traveling from one city to another city. This kept on happening through his entire Rahu Dasha. That's a pretty long period. And usually in this period, if somebody is in US on a typical work visa, the that work visa after some time gets converted into a permanent residency, which is also called as a green card. A green card is like becoming as good as the citizen of US, except you don't have the voting rights. And but after some time then that one becomes eligible to apply for the green card, sorry, for the citizenship. And this is how they become the citizen. So they start from the work visa and eventually become citizen of US. It typically takes anything from, I would say, 8 years to 10 years, 12 years, or 15 years, depending on, of course, the current political or the contemporary political situation. Sometimes the presidents are not in favor of the immigrant, so then the rules are changed. But this is a typical scenario. When he was here, then most of his colleagues, they eventually became citizen, but this person couldn't become a citizen. His entire Rahu Dasha, he was in US, and there was plenty of time. He had good projects, plenty of time to go through all the formalities of becoming a citizen, first getting the green card and then becoming a citizen. But unfortunately, for some reasons, he couldn't become a citizen. So, and then as soon as his Jupiter period started, especially when his Jupiter Saturn started, then he had to go back to India. Now here, I want to point out a few things to you. Entire Rahu period, he was in US. Okay, so we can see, all these combinations for, 3, 9, and at 12. And one of the things that I would like to point out here is that foreign settlement has something to do with Rahu. You know, usually in some of the articles and books, in KP Astrology, you find that the sublord of the seventh cusp, if this is Rahu, then a person usually goes and stays in a foreign country. So you might want to make a note of this rule. But like I said, this is dependent on the cuspal sublord. So when this person approached me, I know him, and so I said, okay, I'm not going to use this rule, though I know that this is a very a horoscope with very accurate birth time, but I don't want to use the cuspal sublord because we don't know. Yeah, so 5 minutes, 4 minute, 2 minute difference might change the cuspal sublord. So I said, okay, let me look at the the dasha and whether that particular dasha indicates 3, 9, 12, and if it has some connection or a strong connection with Rahu. So it's because it so happened that he was undergoing the Rahu dasha. So then I obviously I told him that he is going to be in US and he's going to settle down, in US, and that prediction of obviously, yeah, went wrong. So that's one of the thing, that I wanted to point out, that you can't always, he was here for such a long time, and at that time he felt, and pretty much all his colleagues felt, that he is going to, become a citizen of US, but didn't happen, despite, he going the Shah of Rao. Now, suppose if it would have happened, suppose if he would have become the citizen of US. Now, if you look at the Jupiter and Saturn, after the Rahu Dasha, he had his Jupiter period and then the Saturn sub period. Now, Saturn also indicates, a long journey. So, how do you, interpret that? You say that a citizen of US would be making a long journey to India, or you say a citizen of US would be leaving, US, and now would be settling up in a foreign country. So you got my point. If this person becomes a citizen of US, if would he would have become a citizen of US during the Rahu Dasha, okay, and then if he asks me a question that am I going to settle abroad, then how do you, tackle this question? You see that his Saturn Dasha is or the sub period is coming in, and if he asks this question that am I going to settle abroad now, there are a lot of, I know a lot of guys who are here in US, and they have devoted, 20 years, 25 years, they are citizen. A lot of them have even gone back, and I know, one of my friends here, he used to teach, mathematics in one of the universities in US, and after 35 years of being in US, he became a citizen, and then finally he decided to leave US and settle down, in India. So the question is that a person in India says that can I settle in a foreign country, and then once he settles in a foreign country, or how do you define that he settles, and after 20 years he says that can I, settle in a foreign country? So from India to US is a foreign country, and then again from US to India is a foreign country. So that's one of the some of the challenges, you face while while, predicting or analyzing about, the foreign travel and settlement abroad. So, but generally, accepted, principle is that when you are looking at a horoscope, look at Rahu, you know, look at the influence of Rahu, and if you find the dasha and the or the of Rahu, or if you find a planet who promises, a very long journey and is very strongly connected to Rahu also, then you can safely say that this person might be going and settling down in a foreign, country, because Rahu, represents uh, people of foreign nature. Rahu represents people who speak a different language. They have a different, skin color. They have different traditions and customs. So that is what Rahu, usually indicates. So obviously, when you go from India to US, then everything, changes. The environment changes, the language changes, the people changes, the skin color changes. So that's, one of the way to analyze if this person is going to settle down in a foreign country. So let me, summarize. 3, 9, 12, especially the 9, 12, they always indicate, a long journey. 12th house is the main house for the foreign, settlement. But you have to look at 3, 9, 12, the influence of 3, 9, 12. And finally, last, if you have any, confusion, and I did the same, with this person also, because recently he asked me that is he going to be in US, and as some, opportunities are building up, and so at that time when you have this confusion, you should, resort to the horary astrology and ask for a number. And so that way what happens is you have a very clear, question from the querent or from the person. And now the question is that somebody is asking you that somebody is not asking you that will I be traveling, abroad, or will I make a long journey? No, somebody is asking you that will I make a long journey to US, and then will I settle abroad there permanently? Okay, so that's a very clear cut, question. And then you can have, one number between 1 to 249. That way you can come to a black and white, conclusion, yes or no. So that will give you a peace of mind, and that will also give a peace of mind to the person, who has asked this question. So that's, pretty much in this video. I hope you enjoyed, watching it.